Welcome to the Hill and Pond Social Security Disability blog. I'm Natalia, Jofre. I'm the Social Security Section Director here at our law firm.
And my name is Shelly Campbell. I am the Senior Social Security Attorney.
So in our previous blog, we talked about working, how Social Security evaluates that in terms of can you do any of the type of work you've done in the past 15 years prior to your disability, or can you be retrained to do some other type of work depending on how old you are. We're going to be talking a little bit more in depth regarding age and how that applies to your case in a separate blog. Today we're going to talk about work, because not all work is created equal, right?
That is true.
There's different categories.
Right.
So Shelly, our work aficionado, is going to talk about what are those categories.
Okay, so with Social Security, everyone's past work is broken down and classified. With each position, it has to be determined what the exertion level is, meaning how physically demanding is your job, and then what the skill level is, meaning how much training did you have to be able to perform it. Okay. So for each job is going to be given an exertion level and a skill level. And we'll talk later about, how that's used to either deny or grant the claim. But for now, I thought maybe we should just talk about the different levels of work.
Okay, because people can sometimes identify that kind of is like what applies to me, or that's sort of the type of work I did.
Right. And people will get decisions from Social Security, and it'll have a job title and a classification number, and it may say heavy 2, and they have no idea what that means. So basically, for every position there is a number that is assigned to it. So if they see that in a decision, it's just a number that's assigned to that specific type of work.
Would you say that the harder the type of work the person did, the easier it could become for them to be found disabled, depending on how old they are?
Absolutely. Depending on how old they are and depending on their injuries, for sure. So for physical demands of work, there are 4 different classifications. And the first one is sedentary work. And that's the type of work where you're seated at a desk and you're mostly doing like data entry or answering a phone, but you're not doing a lot of heavy lifting and you're not having to do a lot of walking or standing.
Okay, so a lot of people think secretary.
Absolutely. That's a very good example.
Okay.
And then the level up from that is going to be called a light position. That position is going to require somebody to be standing and walking for the majority of the day, but the lifting will just be mild. They're not going to be doing construction or anything like that, but they may be lifting 10 to 20 pounds throughout the day.
So sometimes people get confused, or they think, oh no, I have a sedentary job, but then they don't think about when you have to load copy paper into the copier, or you need to pick up boxes full of files, or carry heavy books or binders of paperwork, things like that. All of that would kind of fall into that lifting and carrying that's considered?
Yes, absolutely. A good example of a light job is a cashier.
Okay.
Someone that's required to be on their feet and they're still lifting, but they're not doing really heavy lifting. Mm-hmm. The next level of work is going to be medium work. Medium work, again, is going to require a person to be up and on their feet majority of the day, but it's going to require a lot more heavy lifting. This is when you're going to get into more of industrial housekeeping or construction, some construction jobs.
Okay. So, and what's the lifting carrying on
That's over 30 pounds.
Okay, so pretty significant.
Right, and that would be over 30 pounds on a regular basis. Not that you have to lift 30 pounds once a week. This would be that you have to lift 30 pounds, basically throughout the day.
So maybe even like a stalker at a supermarket?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, boxes of merchandise, things like that.
Definitely.
Okay. What's the next one?
The next one is going to be heavy work. That is going to be like your heavy equipment operator. Mm-hmm. Really heavy construction work where the majority of the job is very, very physical. And that's going to be lifting over 50 pounds regularly, and obviously, again, being required to be on your feet and walking throughout the day.
Yeah.
There is another very heavy classification, but usually heavy and very heavy are pretty close together. But that one does require lifting over 100 pounds throughout the day.
Wouldn't you say, because it's difficult, I think, for most, layman's terms, or, regular person, if you will, to understand, wow, that classification, some of these seem so similar, like from
Right.
light to sedentary and kind of figuring out where do I fit in that. I mean, this could lead Social Security to denying a person that really should be approved, maybe because they were just put into the wrong work classification.
Exactly, and we see that happen all the time, where a position will be classified as a sedentary or light position when that wasn't the case at all. And in those cases, it does usually require going before a judge in a hearing and clarifying and really explaining what the person actually did compared to what was written down at some point in their file.
Okay. We'll be talking some more about work and other requirements Social Security has when you're trying to prove your disability case. For now, if you have any questions regarding a potential claim or you'd like to talk to our office, you can call us or visit our website at hillandponton.com. For now, we thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.